The girl yells Courtney's name when she sees an obstruction ahead. But it proves too late because Courtney turns the car and makes it flip into the water. During the opening credits, we hear people talk about near-death experiences. 9 years later, Courtney is a medical student that comes to see a lady in a hospital bed. She tells the lady that she had a seizure and that her heart stopped for several minutes. She adds that she was brought back though. The lady responds by asking Courtney if she lost someone. Then 2 other medical students try tending to a patient. But when the condition becomes more serious, nurses tell them to clear the room. The scene changes to Courtney in a library, reading about the afterlife. Then she comes to another student there, who expresses her difficulty with studying. Courtney suggests they leave and they do. As they walk outside, they talk about school. Then we see medical students in a room with Dr. Barry. He asks them questions that they have a hard time answering. Then he lectures them on their possible incompetence. He asks one student, Marlo, a question. She searches for the answer, but that is enough for him to know that she isn't ready. He shows his irritation with her searching, and then the student, Ray, answers properly in her stead. In the hospital, another medical student, Jamie, enters a room where he states to the man there that he is to give him a certain exam. The man tells him that he doesn't need that kind of exam. As Jamie attempts to give it to him anyway, a nurse comes in and tells him the man doesn't need it. When Jamie leaves that room, Ray makes it clear that he mixed him up on that. Then at lunch, Courtney talks to Jamie. She asks him if he wants to have fun with her later. Mildly surprised, he accepts it and she tells him where to meet her. Later, the other student, Sophia, meets Courtney in the described area. When they both arrive in a certain room, Jamie enters as well. Courtney starts talking about the brain to them. She questions if they can document what happens to them after death. Sophia states her disbelief in it and calls it pseudoscience. But Jamie seems interested. Courtney tells them to stop her heart for 1 minute and then bring her back to life. While she is lifeless, they should scan her brain. She then goes over the details of what they should do. But Sophia rejects participating in this. Afterward, Courtney puts a scanning device on her head, and Sophia is concerned that brain damage could occur. However, Courtney assures her that it won't if she gets brought back in time. What follows is Courtney injecting herself with the heart-stopping formula. Shortly after, she loses consciousness. Then Sophia and Jamie argue about doing this. But then Jamie shocks Courtney and they see she has become lifeless. While she is gone, we fly through the building and the city. After 60 seconds, Jamie shocks her, but she remains lifeless. They have problems bringing the girl back and text Ray for help. He reads the message and rushes to them. After a while of them trying to bring her back, Ray arrives and Sophia tells him what happened. He takes control and tells them what to do. After they do some work, the place gets destroyed and the students move to the destruction in slow motion. Courtney walks in a strange area, and then we see that they are still operating on her and the destruction wasn't real. Sophia then finally shocks her back to life. After that, Marlo enters the room and wants to know what's going on. The next scene has Courtney talking about her experience. Marlo asks if there was a white light there, and Courtney says it was more like pure energy. Then they all look at the recording of her brain during the experiment. Jamie mentions that something looks like a bolt of lightning in her prefrontal cortex. Then he shows Courtney more strange activity that took place just before they pulled her out. In the meeting room, Marlo tells Jamie that Courtney ran 12 miles yesterday. Then the doctor presents a case to them. None of them know what to say about it, but Courtney makes a statement that Barry approves. After that, another case gets presented and she shows superior answering skills to all of them yet again. Then they are at a bar. Courtney plays the piano there quite well. Marlo states that she hasn't played in 12 years. She further says that Courtney's brain got rewired and she's engaging in everything she ever learned. But Ray expresses his disapproval of their experiment before he leaves. Yet Jamie says that he wants to be next. We then see Courtney in her bathroom. She leaves it only to return after hearing a certain sound from there. When she does, she observes the shower curtain is in the bathtub, and the bathtub is full of water. When she comes closer to it, she perceives a body trying to emerge from beneath the curtain. This causes her to fall in terror. But then she sees it was an illusion. In the next scene, Jamie rides a motorbike excitedly on the highway. We see that he is undergoing the same experiment as Courtney, but this time all 5 of them are already there. As they work on Jamie, he rides the empty streets. He now has a lady sitting behind him, but then she disappears and he gets brought back to life. What follows is them partying. Then they notice Hale outside and continue their party on the streets. While Courtney and Jamie have a blast, Marlo tells Ray that she's going next. Then on a bench, Jamie tells Courtney that it was fun, and she asks him if all of it was fun and nothing disturbing happened. He says that nothing was. In the hospital, a nurse describes the condition of a patent to some of them. Jamie then says what he gave her for it, and the nurse tells him that he saved her life. Later, Marlo tells Jamie that his and Courtney's results after the experiment are somewhat different. Courtney is past-focused, whereas Jamie is more present-focused. Then when they leave and Jamie stands there alone, he sees a lady on the street looking at Sophia's home. Her mother prevents her from going out. So we then see 4 of them being present for Marlo's experiment. She tells them she wants to be gone for 3 minutes. When they take her life, she appears as a little girl on a horse. That is followed by her playing the cello and then swimming at older ages. But then she floats underwater and sees the word murder written on the floor. Afterward, she's in a hospital and someone tells her a certain man was stung by a jellyfish. The pool she was in is now filled with many jellyfish. Then the swimming building becomes desolate. Her friends have a hard time reviving her, and Marlowe sees a gurney with a body in it. Eventually, they bring her back to life. After all that, they rest on the roof. Sophia then makes herself present. She states that she wants to be next and that it be now. They hesitate, telling her the cleaners will arrive in 20 minutes. But then they decide to bring her in. As they perform on her, Jamie tells them someone's coming. He runs to check and observes the cleaning crew has arrived. While they operate, we see the vision of Sophia's past in school. She and her friends humiliated a girl for her indecent photos, and then she gets brought back. Ray carries her while they all get in the car and start driving. After picking up Jamie, they escape the security that chases them. They ride through the streets at night and then settle on a party. From there, Courtney follows a girl. As she walks further, she gets a vision of being elsewhere and sees a damaged car. She comes to it and looks inside, and in there lies that girl in the water. After that, she exits her vision in shock. Meanwhile, Sophia takes Jamie home to engage in romance. Then Marlowe brings Ray to her house. In there, she confesses to having ended someone's life 2 months ago. She tells him about the jellyfish incident, and then says she saw that incident again in her flatline. Marlowe states that she's scared and then she and Ray engage in romance too. After that, Courtney stands on a bridge and remembers riding in the car with her sister. We see that she looked into her phone before she crashed. While in the water, a man dives in to save her, but she yells for her sister. We then see Marlowe with Ray. She asks him what he sees in her and then he tells her before leaving. Following that, Jamie arrives at his boathouse. He sees a girl crying on the bed, but then she disappears. A baby then cries and Jamie opens his couch to locate the sound. He picks up some cloth that's supposed to hold the baby, but nothing is there. As he holds it, a terrifying version of the girl that cried in bed stands behind him. And when he turns, she is gone. Courtney then calls and tells him she saw her lifeless sister. In the next scene, she enters her home. She then makes a video telling everyone she misses her sister. That is what the experiment was for. She follows it by crying and stating it was her fault before seeing a light in the hallway. Courtney then walks into a room and perceives her sister working behind a desk. Her sister looks at her, and due to her looking abnormal, Courtney starts running away. But then she falls and gets dragged by a force. After escaping it, she runs to the balcony, where she encounters her sister on the metal stairs. She pushes Courtney down a good distance and we see her lying on the pavement. The next scene has Marlowe swimming in a pool. As she swims, she sees herself floating. And when she emerges, she notices that she's alone there. Then in the meeting room, Barry tells all of them what happened to Courtney. He follows it by asking if any of them know anything about it. But none of them speak. Later, Marlowe tells them about her visions and they all fret over the situation. Jamie then says he and Ray will go into Courtney's apartment and try to find something. At some other time, Jamie calls Marlowe at the hospital from his home and tells her he found some items in her place, but not her phone. He then tells her to go to the morgue because it might be there. So Marlowe arrives there and finds Courtney's phone in a cabinet. Then she opens the freezer where Courtney is supposed to lie. She unzips the bag and looks at Courtney. After she puts her back in, Marlowe sees the word murderer on the wall. And a phone call from Courtney follows that. When she answers it, a voice says Marlowe's name. Then the lights turn off. Scared, Marlowe uses her phone light. She looks into a room that has a green light and then a body sits up behind her. She gets scared even more and then the room returns to normality. Then we see Jamie showering in his boathouse. The shower soon stops, causing him to leave. As he's getting dressed, the radio turns on. He tries adjusting it, but the cries of a baby keep emanating from it. Eventually, he is forced to remove it with a knife. And then the lights turn off and he hears his name called. Then the drawers open and he witnesses that same lady standing and looking at him. He tries to escape from the window, but it closes and knocks him down. However, he manages to leave after that. As he stands on his boathouse, we see the lady standing near him. And when he notices she's there, her presence pushes him into the water, where he starts swimming away. When he grabs onto another area, someone damages his hand. In the next scene, the four of them sit in a restaurant and watch Courtney's recording. When they hear her screams, they put down the phone. Marlowe questions what if Courtney saw her sister. She adds that what if their sins are coming for them. That prompts Jamie to start confessing about the girl he sees. He states he got her pregnant a while ago and then left her to carry out the abortion herself. He then says that it was likely her who damaged his hand. Then Sophia confesses her sin. But Ray urges them that there is a rational explanation for all this. Marlowe finishes the conversation by saying they have to figure out what it is because it will end them just like Courtney. In a hospital room, Sophia listens to a lecture and gets a rude message on her phone. Then she hallucinates the doctor reading that message from her monitor. She tells her to stop and that causes her to leave her hallucinatory state. Then she leaves the room and stands in the empty hallway. When she stares into the distance, someone walks behind her. After that, Sophia enters the elevator, but it does not function. After some time, though, it closes on her and starts to ascend. Sophia struggles to stop it, but the elevator stops itself. When it opens, it reveals to her a ruined classroom. She looks at it for some seconds and then the door starts closing. Before it does, the girl she confessed about appears for a brief time to shock Sophia. After that, the hospital returns to its normal setting. Then Marlo arrives to Ray. He asks her if she changed the autopsy report of the man she confessed about ending. She says she did it to protect herself, and Ray recommends that she tell the dean about it. But she states that if she does that, it will end her career and not bring the man back to life. Ray responds that if she changes a report, then she shouldn't be a doctor. We then see Sophia calling someone and asking about their daughter, Irina. Then she arrives at a building with Jamie. Irina then comes down and Sophia comes to her. She confesses how she wronged her and wants her apology to be accepted. Irina tells her she moved on and starts walking away. But Sophia keeps telling her she's sorry. And then Irina turns around and says she forgives her. Then Jamie finds the lady, Alicia, at a bus stop. She takes her son out of the bus for Jamie to see. He then starts apologizing as well and says he will help her in whatever way he can. The next scene has Marlo sitting on her bed. Then she appears in the ruined swimming pool again with the gurney there. She uncovers it and sees the dead man. And then she wakes up. After that, Marlo drives. While she does, the man that haunts her puts a bag over her head. She struggles with it and then we see her struggling with its absence. Eventually, she crashes into an outside area of a restaurant. But she collects herself and drives again. Later, Ray gets a message from Marlo. It states that she has to make it stop. They all search for her after that. And then Ray sees her car. As he runs in the hallway, he meets Sophia there, and they rush to the bottom level. When they get there, they observe Marlo lying lifeless. Sophia remarks that she's been gone for 4 minutes and they get to work on bringing her back. In her flatlined state, Marlo apologizes to the man on the gurney, but he grabs her by her neck. Then he rides her to another room while she's strapped onto the gurney. When she stands up there, a force lifts her and slams her against the wall. So she stands again over a bathtub, and then her head gets submerged in it. In the real world, her friends fail to revive her. Then Ray injects her with another chemical and says he wants her to come back to him. After that, Marlo leaves the bathtub, but then a big cloud starts sucking everything in, including her. As she holds onto the floor, Courtney appears to tell Marlo to forgive herself. And with that, she returns to life. Everyone is relieved after that. Outside the hospital, Jamie tells Ray that he found Alicia and will now live near his family. And then Marlo narrates that it's not enough to apologize. They have to face up to what they have done and then forgive themselves. We then see her walking into the dean's office to report herself. Later, she meets Ray on the bridge and tells him that she's on probation for her confession. He then gives her the laptop and she tosses it into the water. In the final scene, all 4 of them are at the restaurant they frequent. While talking about Courtney, they observe a man playing the piano piece that she played after her experiment. That prompts them to offer a toast in her name.